Hi, my name is Yana. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And excuse this excuse the setting. I'm in the guest room. The bed is bare, but we're living life. So, yes, welcome to my YouTube channel, and in this video I'm going to be talking about practicing self-devotion when you have when you're experiencing anxiety and depression. And I am licensed through experience to talk about this. So, yes, I'm about to get into it right now. And basically, self devotion is basically the journey of learning to see yourself through the lens of God. And by God, I mean the ever present awareness, source, unconditional love. Okay? That is in all of us, that we are all in, right? Learning how to see yourself through the eyes of source. And when it comes to dealing with anxiety and depression specifically, we tend to get caught up in everything the media says or whatever the case, and you kind of start to see yourself as a sick person, someone who is not healthy, someone who is not whole, who is trying to become healthy. And one of the first things I wanted to talk about was redefining healing, right? Redefining healing and what it is and what it means for you. And so, how I like to redefine healing is that healing is basically a shift in your identity from going from the one who is sick to the one who is healthy. That's basically what healing is. You're not a sick person trying to become healthy. No, in the eyes of God, you always were and you always will be healthy. And it's such a relief to know that your inherent identity is already healthy, is already whole. So when you come from it, from that mindset, it's a lot better. So now when you are doing things for your health, you're not really doing it to become healthy. You're doing it because that's what a healthy person does, right? So I feel like that's very important. And yes, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about. That is how you use the practice of self devotion, which is the journey of seeing yourself through the lens of God when it comes to having anxiety and depression. That is the number one thing. The second thing I want to say to anyone who may be going through a similar thing is to stop explaining yourself to others. Like, stop trying to make people empathize with you. Stop trying to make people understand you and see what you're seeing, because an expression of love is seeking to understand. And when you feel like you have to over explain to somebody what you're going through, that's usually an indicator that they're not actually seeking to understand themselves, right? And a lot of times they already have their mind made up. They either think you're overreacting or you're being dramatic, or they just don't care. And it will save you a lot of time and a lot of energy to just don't even explain yourself, right? If they really want to know, we are in the age of information, and they can go online and look it up. You can look up simulations of what it looks like to experience derealization, panic attacks. These are things that you can look up, and they may not understand it on a experiential level, but it is something that you can easily educate yourself on. So if you feel like you have to go out of your way to validate what you're feeling to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, just give it a rest, because you are already understood and seen by source, by unconditional love, right? And you don't you shouldn't have to use your energy to explain that to somebody else, because at the end of the day, we are trying to shift out of that identity anyway, out of that experience and out of that version. So I'm not going to be using my energy to explain anything that I'm dealing with to someone who just refuses to understand. And I feel like this is a very important thing to say, because it's so normal for people to use anxiety as a personality trait, or to use the word anxiety or depression and not actually understand what it means, because they never received a clinical diagnosis and they're just diagnosing themselves. So a lot of people have become desensitized to it, because there are people who have no idea what it's actually like to experience severe anxiety or severe depression, and they just say it and use it as an excuse, and they really are using it as an excuse and just trying to make it a personality trait, when there are people who are actually suffering from these things. And another thing I want to say is, a lot of people don't even understand what it is, right? When you tell people that you have anxiety or you're dealing with depression, when you say that to people, their mind goes to sadness. Their mind goes to the jitters. Their mind goes to nervousness, right? Like, their mind goes to basic emotions and they don't understand it, right? Or if you're laying in bed all day or you're struggling to be productive, they might assume you're lazy, because they don't understand that it's not all in your head. You're actually dealing with fatigue, muscle aches, heavy muscles. You're actually tired. You're physically feeling tired or weak, which is why it's difficult for you to be productive. But they don't understand that. A lot of people do not take the time out to actually understand. A lot of times people just choose to be ignorant, which is why I believe that when you're experiencing things like that, it's important not to identify with it, but at the same time, you can validate your experience internally. Like, you don't have to seek that external validation from people outside of you, because it's just a waste of time and a waste of energy. And I believe that you deserve to use your precious energy on shifting your identity and your experience into a more desirable one, right? So, excuse me. So, yes, that's basically what I wanted to say. And I really want to double down on what I said at the beginning of the video, which is, you're already made whole, right? You're already made healthy. You're already made worthy. You're already made. That's who you are. That's your true identity, right? As unconditional love, or as a child of God, whatever you want to call it, whatever religion you believe in, I guarantee you it all means the same thing, right? So, and that's basically the essence of what self-devotion is, right? That's what it is. And you can put your energy and your focus on that, instead of trying to be understood by people who have not taken the time and the effort to understand you. And that's genuinely what I believe. Because I can say for myself, one of the most frustrating parts of experiencing something like that is people acting like they don't understand you. They're not seeking to understand you. They're downplaying what you're going through. They're acting like you're overreacting, right? And it's very frustrating, and it feels very invalidating and annoying. But the moment I decided to say, F it, I don't care. I don't care what you think. I don't care if you think what I'm going through is real or not. I don't care. I know what I'm going through, and that's enough. Then that is when so much pressure just came off of me. Like, I don't have to over explain this to anybody who doesn't want to understand, right? And that's going to be a lot of people. So, and even when it comes to people who have experienced severe anxiety and depression, even sometimes they don't understand that it's on a spectrum. So you can be someone who's experienced anxiety and depression, and the next person who's experiencing it have a completely different experience than you do, right? Not everybody with anxiety experiences derealization or palpitations or a really fast heartbeat, racing thoughts, insomnia. There are aspects of it that some people have, but some people have it so bad, right? And it can feel terrible. Like you will actually literally be thinking something is wrong with you every single day. And some people have never experienced it on that level. So that is basically the whole point that I wanted to say today, is like learning to see yourself through the lens of God is the best thing to do when you're experiencing. Notice how I say experiencing. When you're experiencing things like anxiety and depression, because that's how you learn to see yourself as whole, healthy, and complete. That's how you learn to validate yourself and know that you are seen, heard, understood, and felt by God. Literally, God is in your body experiencing everything with you, and you are not alone, right? And as we learn to genuinely see ourselves as that, I believe that's where the true healing begins. And by healing, I mean shifting into the identity as the one who is always healthy, who is made healthy, and out of the identity of the one who is sick, trying to become healthy. My name is Yana. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, if you want to. If not, that's cool. And goodbye.